I woke up just really heavy-hearted about something, and I asked Rusty, I said, will you let me talk today? And some of our listeners may just turn it off right now because you're a way better communicator.
No, they're probably like, oh, yes, she's actually going to talk.
But I just sat like he doesn't even know, literally does not know what I'm going to be talking about.
Hey, I'm Rusty.
And I'm Heather.
And we're the Bryants, and this is the Redeemed Marriage Podcast.
We are here to encourage healthy marriages, strengthen wounded marriages, and begin the process of restoration to broken marriages.
We aren't licensed counselors, but we are a redeemed couple that loves the Lord and wants to help you journey through this messy, challenging, and fun part of life called marriage. We're back. We've been joking the last few weeks how we just say the same thing, or I say the same thing every time we start. And so I never done that before. We're back. I mean, it feels like it's been so long, but it's been a week.
It's only been a week.
Yeah, but I just love our listeners.
I know.
It's fun. Hey, if you haven't heard, we had big news come out this week. Don't worry. We're not pregnant.
No.
We're too old for that.
Too old for that mess.
However, we do have a website. So we birthed a website.
Oh, my dear Lord.
Oh, goodness. Some of y'all know that our marriage, like marriage ministry, the whole ministry is called Three Strands Marriage Ministry. So you've seen that on different things, social media and stuff. But our podcast is called The Redeemed Marriage. And people were telling us, and people much smarter than us, podcast type people, said you need a website for your podcast.
Yeah.
So we have one now.
You made that happen.
TheRedeemedMarriage.com. How hard is that?
Perfect.
I mean, pretty amazing.
Can't believe it wasn't taken.
It was ready, waiting for us. So now there is a one-stop shop. You can still listen the way that you've always listened through all of the different podcast platforms, your favorite ones, and the way that you listen. But we now have this website that has some other resources on there. And all of the old episodes, they're all there in one place. You can listen straight from there. You can leave a review from there. We actually would love for you to leave reviews and rate from whatever podcast platform you listen to, but you can also do it on the site, on our website. There's a blog there that we'll be adding to periodically because somebody actually on our survey was from another country, and they said that sometimes that they have trouble listening to our podcast, and they said it was for privacy reasons. And so, again, no clue. I don't understand all of that.
But they can go to the website.
So, yes, so they can go to the website, but they can also, they specifically said we would like to see more written, like for blog. So there's a blog on there, and it does have one post, yes, from me, and then we'll be adding to it as we go along. Also, you can sign up for email list to get news and other encouraging words about marriage from Rusty and Heather.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's other stuff and there's other features. We just haven't figured it all out yet, but it's up and running, and I think it looks pretty cool. So go check it out, TheRedeemedMarriage.com. All right. Here we go.
Yeah, so today, this you got. I think we've probably said before how we decide what we're going to talk about. A lot of times it's a series we're doing, so we know what's coming next. But then a lot of times we don't know until the week before, or even sometimes day of, what we're going to be discussing. Of course, we had that amazing survey that we sent out and got, hundreds of topics.
Yep.
Literally hundreds of topics. And so we've been looking through those. We even tossed around maybe doing like a random drawing and talk about the one that we drew. And there's just so many things on there that that we want to discuss. And we couldn't really land on one today. I woke up just really heavy-hearted about something, and I just said, I asked Rusty, I said, will you let me talk today? And some of our listeners may just turn it off right now because you're a way better communicator.
No, they're probably like, oh, yes, she's actually going to talk.
But I just said, like, he doesn't even know, literally does not know what I'm going to be talking about. And I would love for you to chime in, because I know that you will do that brilliantly. But I've just been heavy-hearted today. A lot of times, a topic that we discuss, it's because something's come up during the week or something that day, either among us or our family, with our kids. And God just put this on my heart today, and I want to share it with you guys. When I listen, or when I look through all of the surveys, and when I'm responding to different people that instant message us and are asking specifically for prayer, there are a lot of heavy things that are going on in the lives of our listeners. I think everybody goes through seasons to where you're kind of rocking along and doing good, and then trials come up, and you walk through the fire, and then you come out on the other side of that and bring that back. But I just felt very weighted from all of the messages and things that we have been responding to. And I was reminded the importance of our relationship with the Lord. I don't think that there's any marital advice that we can give that is more important than you and your spouse searching for the Lord together. And that doesn't seem to be the case in a lot of these marriages that we are hearing about. And it wasn't for us 10 years ago. I wasn't searching the Lord. I wasn't walking daily with Him, or I wouldn't have fallen into the trap that I did. And so I wanted to talk about, just very briefly, how we can choose to know God more, and in that, He is going to help restore and redeem our marriages. And this isn't just for the couple that both of you are searching. There's lots of people out there that it's like they're what they wanted us to discuss was, how do you make a marriage work when only one person is working, when only one person is working on their relationship with the Lord, and trying to make that as a couple, and it's just not working. And so this is not just for that couple. This is for you individually. I was reminded this morning during our pastor's sermon that sometimes what we desire and we think that God desires is the ultimate picture, but that He has to do work on us sometimes individually before we can get there. And so I would challenge you, as you listen to what God's put on my heart, don't think, oh, I hope my wife is listening to this, or, oh, I hope my husband needs to listen to this. Think about you and your relationship with the Lord and your part that you play in your marriage. Just you. Just put your eyes on you for a minute and think about how God is dealing with you. One of the things that I've heard recently through some different sermons is that a lot of times we know who God is, because I think that there's so many people out there that say they believe in God, but they don't have a relationship with Him. And that is very different. Scripture even tells us that even the demons tremble.
The demons believe and tremble.
That's right. They believe and tremble. So, but they do not have a relationship with the Lord, and they don't know His character and who He is. And so I was thinking about how there are different levels of people that know me. I have probably hundreds of little children, because I teach school through the years, that if I'm in the grocery store and I hear Miss Bryant, I know that I've been their teacher, or they know me as teacher. And so that's a very common thing that I hear out in the community. And of course, every day at school, lots of Miss Bryant, Miss Bryant, Miss Bryant, Miss Bryant. They know me as teacher. And then, there's friends and acquaintances that know me as Heather. They wouldn't call me Miss Bryant, but they know me as Heather, friends and acquaintances. And then there's other people, like if I was in the grocery store and I heard somebody say bacon, I would know I probably played soccer. I mean, not soccer. Sorry, I'm in the soccer world now. I probably played basketball with that person. I probably went to high school with you, and knew me as that because that was my maiden name. And when I played sports, and so I would know that's who that is calling me that name. There's a few people. My aunt name is Annie. I'm not real sure how that happened, but that's my aunt name. And there's only 6 people in the world that call me that, because I have 6 precious nieces and nephews that has a little bit more of an intimate name, because there's only 6 that call me that. And we've had experiences together.
Who is the 6th one?
Oh, gosh.
You have
5. Sorry.
I was sitting here doing, I don't know.
Hey, you're listening.
I'm missing somebody.
I'm so sorry. I have 5.
Unless we don't know something. Goodness
I was counting
gracious.
in my head, and I was doing 3 and 3, but it's 3 and 2. Sorry. Remember that that teacher comment I get?
Yeah.
I can do math, I promise.
Yeah.
Anyway, so 5 little nieces and nephews that they're not little anymore, but that call me Annie, and that's a little bit more intimate because there's just a few of them. There's only 2 people in the world that call me mom or mama. Our 2 boys, and that's it, just those 2. And that name is even more intimate to me, because that means I've spent hours rocking you. I've cried with you. I've cheered you on. I've been there every step of the way. I have picked you up when you have fallen and scraped your knee. I've cleaned bandages. I was fixing to say that I've cleaned throat, but we know that's not true. That's all you.
Me.
But I have been there through moment after moment. And that is one of the most intimate names that I can be called, is Mama. And then there's only one person, you, that gets to call me your bride. Mm-hmm. You call me your bride, your wife, your significant other. I've heard you refer to me as your better half, which is not true, because you're my better half. But and then you have all the pet names that people go by: honey, sweetie, whatever. There's those names that is only for one person. And we have the most intimate relationship that you can have here on earth. And that's reserved for one person. And so I think about those names, and they all show a different level of intimacy that I have with people. The people who call me Miss Bryant, and a lot of the people that call me Heather, those aren't very intimate names, but then it comes down to very few people. And I think that a lot of people know Jesus as God. I think that a lot of people call him God. And that's a very broad name that we just said a while ago, that even the demons know him by that name. So that's a very general name. But guys, when we are going through times like a lot of our listeners are going through, or have been through, or will go through, we have to know him more than that. We have to be intimate with him. We have to know him as healer. We have to know him as friend. We have to know him as all of these names, so that we can call on those in our times of need. There's an amazing book by Kay Arthur called The Names of God that goes through so many of these names, but one of them sticks out to me more than any other as I read through the comments that we have gotten over the last few months. And that is that our marriages and our individual spouses, individual people, are in desperate need of God's strength. It's a very trying time that a lot of our listeners are going through, or will go through, or have been through, where we need God to be our strength. You may have a spouse that is not on the same page as you. that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking for one spouse to want to fight for their marriage and work hard and to make going for redemption and restoration, and for one to not. And so to know God as your strength through that has to be something that you can lean on and rely on. Most of you know, or if you haven't heard us talk about it before, about 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I'm going to tell you, chemo, you were there, is no joke.
I was there.
You were there. It's no joke. It is, it does a number on your body. So I went through 6 chemo treatments that were hard. They were 4 different chemos, and they made me sick. They made me tired. We've talked about that before, but they made my body physically tired, and I was still working. I was still going and doing and trying to do everything that I normally do. Well, then I went straight from those 6 chemos into surgery, and it was a very long surgery. It wasn't to me, but I know it was to you.
Right.
lots of hours. And coming out of that and just being exhausted, my body was depleted from energy because of chemo. I had just had major surgery. And I just remember being so tired, and we stayed in the hospital that night. And I will never, ever forget the next day, us being able to come home, and they put me in the wheelchair straight from the bed, and I went all the way down into the car. And then when we got home, I remember thinking, I have to walk from this car to the couch or to the bed. There was no wheelchair. And I will never forget, you got out of the car and you came around, and I have a visual from the outside of my body. I was bald, I was pale, I was skinny, I was weak, and you just put my arm around your shoulders and you helped me into the house. And it was such a picture of what God wants to do for us right now in these horribly painful, emotionally draining times that a lot of our listeners are in. God wants to be your strength. He did not create your spouse to be that for you. He did not create your spouse to walk along with you in getting to know him more to get to know him deeply, not more deeply, to get to know him deeply. And that is a relationship between you and the Lord. Now, is your spouse there and able to journey with you? That's amazing if they are. And I pray that will be the goal for everyone, is that you get to journey together. I feel like our marriage is in a healthy spot to where we get to kind of carry some of that for each other, and we journey together towards the Lord. But guys, there are people out there who are listening to this that need to hear that your God is your strength. And you are going to make it through this, but you have got to lean on him. You have got to search for him. You have got to learn more about him. You have got to ask him what he's trying to do in your life and in your marriage as you journey through this, because the goal is to look more like him. The goal is to be able to get to know him more. That's his desire. And sometimes we have to walk through really ugly things, and he allows trials and hurts and pain in our lives so that we realize that we're in need of him. Because if we weren't in need of him, we would just be doing life on our own and thinking everything's fine. But he gently reminds us that we need him. And I just want, I don't know, it may be for one person out there that needed this, for me to say this, but I just feel so certain that there's somebody that needs to know they're not alone. And that you may be hitting rock bottom in your world. Your marriage may be falling apart, and your spouse doesn't want to come alongside you. You have hurt children. There's hurt relationships. People aren't supporting you. I mean, there's so much pain that we heard in those surveys. But knowing that God is still in control, that there is hope, and that we have to search after Him with every single thing that we have in order to make our marriage stronger and our relationship with our spouse stronger.
You know, you could drop the mic. We literally do have a mic. You're not holding it, but you could drop the mic. You know, as you were talking through that, there were so many things that were going through my mind. First of all, what an incredible word. And, you know, I mean, I think you just said it all beautifully, but also you are somebody that can certainly speak into that topic because of what we've been through and how we had to both, but specifically you had to get things right between you and God before our marriage could really heal. And you know, I know you keep coming back to, because you just looked over some of those survey topics just a few minutes ago, and you already had this on your heart, I know. But the reason why I think it became so clear for you to share that is because there were so many of them that kept saying, well, what do I do? Because it's just me. Right. My spouse is not willing to work, or my spouse is so far from the Lord, or right. I'm the only one chasing after God, mm-hmm. or, you know, we just had this, you know, there's been infidelity, and now, you know, I don't know what, you know, so there's obviously a lot of people that listen to us. The one that's listening is the one that's trying. Right. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Sure. They're the ones that's searching and seeking, and they've looked on the internet. I mean, how many of those things said, yes, that's how we found you, was an internet search. So mm-hmm. people are just looking. And when I think about those people out there, there was the book that you always recommend, and you can. Do you remember the name of it? I know we always mess the name of it up.
Saving Your Marriage Alone.
Yeah, Saving Your Marriage Alone. Do you remember the author?
Wheat. Is it B? Something, 2 letters and a wheat.
I think it's Wheat. Yeah, okay. Wheat. Uh-huh. But Saving Your Marriage Alone. And like, I just feel like as I was listening to you, I felt like offering some sort of a resource because, you know, you were talking about how people know us and, you know, or how people know you and different intimacy levels. And like, I think there's people out there that like, yeah, we know Rusty and Heather because they talk to me every week and they invite me into their story. And there is for them, there probably is a little bit of a level of intimacy, but you don't know us. You just come once a week to listen to us. And I mean, we feel like we know some of these people because we communicate with them through social media. We've had a chance to be on Zoom calls and different things with people. And so that grows the level of intimacy. But for a lot of these people, they just are listening to it. They may be on the other side of the world. And so, like, I want to leave them with something that's a valuable tool. And so that's why I kept thinking about that, because I'm like, these people, they think they know us, they listen to us, and so because they do know us in some level, they're going to do some things that we say. And so that's why I want to encourage them to find that book. And we can put it in the show notes to make sure that people know exactly what it is, but Saving Your Marriage Alone, because a lot of you out there are struggling with that. The other thing that I kept thinking about was just the last couple of weeks, our pastor we've been talking about prayer, and Heather mentioned that, but through that prayer, we have also been discovering that how many times, if you're listening to this and you're trying to fight for your marriage, surely you're one that has been throwing up bombs of prayers at God saying, help me, save my marriage, you know, heal my husband, whatever it might, you know, save my marriage. And so many times there's a bigger work going on. And I know that for us and what we went through, God was after you. And he was after your heart.
That's right.
And so he allowed Satan to get a hold of your life in such a way that you had nowhere else to turn. And so I know that that our pastor has even mentioned the last couple of weeks, or last week there was a story in a video of a lady that she was sick, and she kept praying for healing, and she kept praying and asking for healing. She was like, why is God not listening to this? And then because of her journey through that, her son turned back to the Lord, and then she was healed.
Right.
It wasn't in her timing, but when she looked back, she was like, well, because I went through that, then look what happened. And in the same way, we look back at what we went through, and we can go, okay, would have never chosen that, but look where we are. And then the legacy behind it. And so there may be some people out there that are praying and they're going, God's not listening. But it might be one of those things where you need to start looking and say, what are you trying to do through this? You know, what are you trying to do in me? Like, take that responsibility. Like, you started this by saying, look at yourself first.
That's right.
And look, we can point fingers at our spouses all day long. But even yesterday in our marriage mentor training that we went through, that was one of the things that there was a communication tool, which we'll probably share sometime, but it was give your spouse one thing that you want them to, I don't know if it was worded, I have to look back at notes, but something basically what they need to work on maybe, but before you talk to them, you have to stop and say, what's my role in this? What's my responsibility? And I think that's so important for our listeners to be going, okay, you know, God may be working in another way right here.
And it could be your spouse, it could be children, it could be relationships around you, and maybe even a way that you don't even know that he's working.
And very well could be you. Your heart that he's trying to get. And so I'm going to leave with this one story, because there is a couple. It's funny how I kind of led into this and wasn't even really expecting to say this, but there's probably couples that have reached out to us. You know, people feel closer to us because they know our hearts, they know our story. But then there's also the ones that have reached out where we've really had deep communications with. Right. And there's a couple that we have communicated with quite a bit, and their story is very, very similar to ours. But when they walked through the same journey that we did, after the husband confessed, he gave his life to the Lord.
That's right.
And he, like they thought, and he thought that he was a believer and was a follower of Christ, but then when that crashed down and he really saw, man, I've got to give my whole life to Jesus. And we actually asked, or you asked the wife, you know, because it's only been a few months, it's still so painful, but you said, you know, if it was just to get your husband to give his life to Christ, was it worth it? Would you go through it? And that's that's hard to answer. But she said yes. She said, I would do that. And so that's a part of what you're saying through all this, is that as you're praying and as you're working through this, you don't know where God is working and what He's doing around you. And what an incredible testimony of this lady's faithfulness and sticking by her husband, and at the same time watching him really relearn and learn for, I guess, the first time of how to be a godly husband and a godly father. And it's just an amazing, beautiful picture. And so some of you out there are like, I keep praying, and nothing's happening. I'm working hard and nothing's happening. And we're just saying, don't give up.
That's right.
Let Jesus be your strength.
That's right.
Because He is more than enough.
More than enough.
And sit back and watch the amazing stuff that He can do through you and through what He's wanting to do in your circumstances. Yep. So, incredible words. So thank you for taking the lead and running with it. Did you want to close in any way?
No, sir.
Okay.
You wrapped it up beautifully.
All right. So, so I hope this week that you're encouraged by this message, especially from Heather and her words of encouragement. Please feel free to reach out to us and let us know how we can help you and how we can encourage you in your journey this week. So until next time, we will see you then.